Welcome to the Spiritual Development Channel. I'm Narcissist. Today we have an awesome lesson. You know, my mind be racing during the week and I'll be writing and jotting stuff down, little information. I noticed that I did a lesson on Samson and melanin, and I want you to walk with me because the scriptures is a multi-dimensional aspect, right? It's a book that has different layers that you peel back, and when you have levels of certain different areas of consciousness, you peel back more of the scriptures and you start to understand. And the root of this is really inside of the language. So if you need Hebrew classes, holler at me at the Spiritual Development Channel. Give me an email and I teach Hebrew classes and I show you how to decipher the book in a deep way. Let's get into it. The narcissist and the sociopath. Samson. Narcissism, right? A narcissist is a person that only cares about himself. He may emulate emotions and pretend like he cares for others, but really most of the care and concern is about him. He usually objectifies people, think that they're objects to govern his self-centeredness. And a sociopath is a form of narcissism, but a sociopath, unlike a psychopath, a sociopath is rejected by society. So they really usually are people that are locked up and incarcerated because before the age of 5, a parent weaning their child and training their child, they're supposed to make them socialize. So when you don't have or give the child parameters and borders and guidelines to follow and you're overprotective of that child, it usually leads into other issues. So we're going to go into that right now. All right, in the beginning of the story, you start to notice this man, Manoah. Manoah is in a place what's called Zeruah. Now you got to look at the definition of places because they have understanding of where these people are going mentally, and just like our social construct, any archetype that you're under, it'll have an influence on forming how you think. So Zeruah means hornet. Okay, so the Bible is showing you that you basically have to be a zoologist in the way to understand the symbolism of an animal. A hornet represents the solar energy or the sun, right? And it deals with fertility issues, and it's dealing with issues with the heart chakra. All right, so now this is going to set the foundation for the whole lesson now, and it's going to show you how to tell if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, right, or a sociopath. All right, so now we see the fertility issues. Barrenness is going to come into play in this lesson, and the heart chakra. Now, what's an unbalanced heart chakra, right? An unbalanced heart chakra usually leads to things that you start to see that formulates and materialize in your world as apathetic or faithlessness, unforgiving, hopelessness, distrustful, uncommitted, and detached. If your relationship have most of this stuff in it, chances are you're probably dealing with a narcissist or a sociopath or even a psychopath, right? Now, let's go. The word Aquara means barren. So in this story, Manoah's wife was barren. Aquar is the root word, means to pluck out. So we spoke about this before because usually they may not have been barren when they wasn't trying to give birth to a baby, but they were probably having miscarriages back in the days. Now, usually when a parent has a miscarriage, the next child she has, she becomes overbearing and overprotective. So it leads to one thing into another. Overbearing parent because they don't want nothing to happen to that child, and there's real issues behind it. Then, when you're overbearing parent, that child that you're raising usually suffers from narcissism or becomes a sociopath or a psychopath. And the reason B is because of the limitations that you did not set for your child. And so now the world is going to fight against your child to make sure that it has its parameters and limitations. All right. So an angel came to her and told her that she would be given a child, and she had to make this child a Nazarite, and he gave her the rules. All right, so Manoah didn't really believe his wife, so to speak. So he asked God to give him a sign and send the man to speak to him. So there you already see a level of distrust between the two in the relationship. And when you start to see the distrust in the relationship, it's going to lead to another thing. Verses 11, when he talks to the angel and God sends the angel to the man for the second time to speak to Manoah, he says, did you speak to the woman? Not my woman, the woman. And there's two things going on here. When he says the woman, you see a level of detachment inside of the relationship. So there's not close. So not only is her overbearing parenting coming from her being barren or having miscarriages, now she has a relationship with a man that she's detached to. And usually mothers, if they're in a relationship where they feel that they're being suppressed, they usually love their child as if they wanted to love the husband. So they give that energy that they were going to give to the husband to the child, but it's given to the child prematurely, and it's creating a child that is not conducive with the ramifications of what society has. So, and this is a problem with a lot of single mothers, is because they say, this is my king, or they start to raise this, but what they're raising up is little sociopaths and little narcissists that's going to run around, so they're creating the same type of man that they hate, or the same kind of man that they destroyed. I see this going on in a lot of families, especially in single mother households. And this is not to knock single mothers, but I want you to be aware of some of the things that you could possibly be doing. All right, so now she has a child. And one more thing. You see the detachment here, but then you also see objectification. One way to know a narcissist sometimes won't even call you by your name. Not only will he not call you by your name, when he's talking about other people, he calls them by a noun and not a pronoun. He doesn't give them their name. So he says you, or your boy, your friend, or something like that. He would never call people by a name. So that's a symbol of underlying objectification. He only sees you, or she only sees you, as being the object to help them and assist them in what they're doing. So when you start to hear people that talk like that, start to think and read into it and be very careful, because to be in a relationship with a narcissist is very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And it can destroy you mentally. So be very, very cautious. All right, so Samson. Samson comes from the Hebrew word shemesh, which means solar energy. Shemesh means sun. Samson means solar energy, or something derived from the sun, or children of the sun, right? Now, a sun symbolizes ego, right? Now, according to Carl Jung, it's broken down into two archetypes. You have the ego and the shadow self, the persona and the shadow self. And the persona is the Latin word for mask, things that we place upon ourselves and we want to pretend to be. It is a mask that you put on during the play, so something that you're acting out. So many of us live in our ego, and our shadow selves are things that we try to suppress, that are the dark sides of us that come out eventually, sometimes when we become angry or impatient about things. So now what happens is narcissism is an unbalance between the ego and the shadow self. And the shadow self is actually feeding the ego, but the ego is a persona that this individual creates to blot out their insecurities. See, a narcissist, even though they act like they're confident and it's all about them and they look so good, or they try to be the flyest thing on the planet, really what they're trying to do is drown out their insecurities. So they create a persona of themselves. They live so much in the ego and set their ego so high that it blanks or blots out all their insecurities. And one thing you start to see with a narcissist, especially in religious groups and things like that, is they begin to believe that their word is the word of God, and they become very narcissistic, or they'll believe they're a Messiah or they're a prophet. And these things are something that you have to be very mindful of when you start watching this. All right. Now, we notice that he isn't attracted to women of his race. So Samson now, when he sees a woman in Timnath, he wants the woman who was not of his people, but of the rival. So the Philistines. So now here he is supposed to be a child of God. So imagine him, you're a child, you're a special child, you're my baby, God gave me, you're God's gift. And being put in his mind all the time, it creates a level of arrogance that is supported by all the other things that underline this man's ideas and concepts. All right? So he's not attracted by women of God. So you start to see that that's actually his shadow self starting to play out. But his ego will actually make justification of why he likes these women. So him being the man of God was supposed to be already devoted to a woman of God. But you see this with narcissists. They may have a woman that they have that is accepted amongst the people or the community, but really they desire the women out there in the world. All right, 14:3, it says, he tells his parents to go get the girl from Timnath for him, right? His love for his parents isn't completely genuine. His love for his parents isn't completely genuine. So that's another tool by the narcissist. Because his parents were overbearing, they're always going to defend him and stick up for him. This is just how they try to operate and function. And who better to use as your minions as your parents? So It's not that, so when you see a narcissist, it looks like he's very close with his parents, but he's not. He only utilizes his parents to get what he wants. They're a product or they're a tool for his use to get him whatever he needs, because when his parents suggest to him he shouldn't deal with them, he still acts with them anyway. And because the parent feels that their child is special, or because they don't want to hurt them or be offensive to them, they get the children whatever they want to pacify their needs, and which is actually leading them to their own destruction. All right. So then he goes on a path where he's traveling somewhere and he begins to tear a lion to shreds. Now, this symbolizes the proclivity of violence in a narcissist. So a lot of times a narcissist, and not all narcissists or sociopaths are violent, but they're malicious. So you see throughout the story, Samson is very violent because he has a high level of ego. He does not care. It is his way or no other way. I want to go into something that I wrote years ago, and I want to share it with you. When Samson was born, the Lord began to deal with him between two places, which have spiritual and emotional and mental implications. Judges 13:25, and the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between Zorah and Estaol. Zorah means hornet, and the hornet is the symbol of sexuality. According to Dr. Leanne Leiden, sociopaths want three things in life: power, control, and sex. Often, sex is simply an extension of their desire for power and control. Sociopaths get off by dominating or controlling an individual. They just love dominating people. This is their thrill. You could be in a room with a sociopath. You could be sitting down at the table with a sociopath. The sociopath put his foot by your foot to see if you will move. They will come in your space to see if they're okay in your space. They will meddle in your business. They do anything to just show their dominance. It's all about ego to them. Testosterone levels are extremely high in male and female sociopaths. So if you have a female sociopath, it means her testosterone levels are extremely high. The results are competitiveness and aggression. Most sociopaths will lock you in with sex, knowing that oxytocin that is released, a woman is more vulnerable and clingy. So if you're in a relationship with a sociopath, and this is how people say, people like, oh, it's nothing good after a breakup or an argument, it's good sex. That is a setup. Because you did not fix the issue at all. The issue is still there, but it is a tool by the sociopath or the narcissist to lock you in, because once he has sex with you, the oxytocin in the brain makes the woman clingy to the man. So just when you're thinking that you're going to leave and move on, the sex has locked you into something that now you're having a hard time getting out of. Oxytocin, when it's in the bloodstream of an individual, becomes more malleable and is perfect for manipulation, so the individual brains is able to be molded. For some male sociopaths, sex is no matter the gender. So sometimes you start to see this in ancient civilization, that you see the demoralizing or the emasculating the men in other society by having sex with the men, having sex with men. It was because they were dominating them and asserting their ego over these individuals. You see it in the tribe of Benjamin. You see it in Sodom and Gomorrah. You see it in prison movies. And mostly 95% of the people that's incarcerated are sociopaths. All right? Now I'm going to continue. Remember, they are about control, and even if they don't engage in same-sex sexual acts, they will encroach in another man's space, whether it's placing his foot extremely near or touching yours while you sit at the table, or pressing up against you as you dialogue. Remember, they want lots of control, which a lot of times translate into lots of sex. Isha'ol means entreaty or petition. Zorah, the hornet, symbolizing sex, was connected to Isha'ol, which means petition for a woman. Right? So he starts to begin to petition for a woman because he needs this. A sociopath needs a counterpart to help him manipulate others. And this is part of how men collect these women and utilize them as minions in order to push their sociopathic agenda. So be very, very cautious. And I want to close out with this. Later, Samson's family throws a feast for his new women when 30 men came to greet him. This is just what egotistical a person like Samson wanted, a chance to prove he is intellectually superior to others. And this is why you get the debates going on in our community back and forth, because everybody's into their ego, they're into their persona. They want to gratify, they want to show their dominance over another, and we all get caught up in it. We all get caught up in it. But it's not that sociopaths or psychopaths are more intelligent than others. They just harness the innate ability to hone in on the weakness of their victim. So it's not that they're smarter than you. They just know how to pick apart your weaknesses, and which makes them look like they have an advantage. Samson entertains his guests with an interesting riddle and with the hefty wage attached to it. Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. What's so interesting about this riddle is that he based it entirely on something that he witnessed. He based this riddle off of something he only witnessed. A psychopath, a sociopathic move. Watch what I tell you. So it's not that sociopaths are more intelligent. They just rigged the rules of the game, making it impossible for you to win. This is a logical fallacy similar to a tactic used by narcissists called moving the goalpost. They set up an unreachable goal to validate their reasons for being dissatisfied with you, to perpetuate and justify their mistreatment towards you. So they set up goals that you can't reach to show that they're dissatisfied in the stuff that you're not doing, so they can perpetuate their authority over you. Keep it in mind. Called moving the goalposts. Remember, there was a rival between the Israelites and the Philistines, so there is an underlying malice that is less present at first glance. Let us go back in the story and discuss the wage and the bet of Samson. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle. If you certainly declare it with me within 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 shekels and 30 garments. Okay, 30 shekels, 30 garments. Samson, really? Here's a glimpse into his mind. 30 garments are a lot today. Imagine in biblical times. But the study shows that sociopaths are more flashy and high and materialistic. And so they use this materialism to bait other things, and they're covering up their insecurities. So remember, sociopaths, and this connects to the hornet, sun energy, fertility issues in the heart chakra. The unbalanced heart chakra, if it's unbalanced, this is the problem with most sociopaths. They are faithlessness. See, he didn't have faith. He really didn't understand how God worked. He said, I thought I seen God. That's God. He's going to kill us. He didn't understand the faith. He's unforgiving. The woman, something that she did to him, he never let her go. Hopelessness. They don't believe in that relationship. Distrustful. He didn't trust his wife. Uncommitted. Sociopaths sleep with all types of women because they're about control, and detach. They will go and detach themselves from you and leave you cold till you think that it's about you, and you end up hurt and start looking at yourself to see what's wrong with you, and that's when they lock you into their control. Spiritual Development Channel, thank you.